Hello, this is Sarah Fox from the Bookish Fox. I'm with Danielle Randall, the amazing Not Your Mama's Minister, who just published a beautiful book called I Met God in a Nightclub. Tell us a little bit about yourself and more about it, because you're amazing, and I want you to say it yourself in your own words.
Thanks, Sarah. So I'm Danielle Randall, and I just published this book, I Met God in a Nightclub, The Unconventional Truth. And it was a great experience. What I do is help people establish a spiritual connection in the world to themselves and to God. And I do it through functional spirituality, using your life as your path and developing all of the essential ingredients for living a really good and joyful, blessed life from there.
That's amazing. That's such important work in this world.
Thank you.
So what is the book about? So walk us through what's in these beautiful pages.
So in the book, I Met God in a Nightclub, The Unconventional Truth, it's really a memoir. I'm telling the story of how I came to understand what it meant to have a spiritual connection, what the value was in creating an independent relationship with God, one that was really outside of the teachings that I had been given in my religious upbringing or anything I could really elicit just from moving through my daily life. And it's really a story of intervention, how God simply found me working in a nightclub. And of all places, it's a true demonstration that God will meet you wherever you are, that there is no perfect place and you don't need to be a perfect person. And in the story, as my life unfolds, you can really see a demonstration of how finding that inner power, finding the inner strength, relying on the connection that I created to spirit really began to define me for my truest and most authentic self. And as I lived that life, beautiful things happened, and really I was able to come to a place where I was at peace, even in difficult moments. And I hope that this book really shows that to people, that they don't need anything else in the moment. What they really need is their life and a willingness to be open to that connection.
Yeah, that was really powerful for me because I grew up in a church environment where it was very judgmental. Like my minister would read my prayers to make sure if they were good enough. And it was just so refreshing to like read your book where like God meets you where you are and you don't have to be perfect. And that really impacted me in a huge way. So I really appreciate it. Sorry, guys. Dogs, again, as we were saying, things don't have to be perfect.
No, and I'll take that as confirmation that what we're saying is worthy of our praise, because the truth is we all are living this life. And as we're moving through life, things don't unfold exactly perfectly as intended. What you do get, though, is a whole experience. You get everything on the continuum from amazing to it sucks. And when you learn to navigate that terrain using spiritual skills, having some place to come back to, a home within yourself, then you can truly accomplish anything, which is why I think we're here talking about this today, right? Because because this book is, in fact, the story. The coming of the book is the story that I tell.
So how did it start? What gave you the idea for the book? How were you inspired to begin writing this book? And what was that writing process like for you?
So about 10 years ago, I was steeped in my study to become a minister of spiritual consciousness, and I was going through a really rough personal time. And even though my personal life was disrupted, my spiritual life was amazing. And so what happened was one night while I was literally laying in bed, I got what I'll call a divine invitation to wake up at about 3 o'clock in the morning. And I really felt and heard, we've all had that place where we hear, like, we have a knowing, we hear a voice within our own voice that said to me, get up and write this down. And so I got up, and much like you would write down a dream, I got a piece of paper and scribbled down what I heard. And what I heard was I met God in a nightclub, the unconventional truth. And I thought, what the hell is that?
That's amazing. People tell me how catchy they think your title is. That's incredible.
I think God is just wicked smart, because
he's good at marketing.
Considering where it came from, it was really encapsulating, just in title alone, what I was experiencing in my life. That it was true, in fact, that I met God, or the presence of God came to my awareness in a nightclub environment. And so when I heard that, I was already done working in the club. So this seemed to me like it was interesting, but I wasn't really sure where we were going with this. So I followed the instructions. I scribbled down the title. I got a list of chapters, which were really more concepts. They were ideas. They were like encapsulated pieces of time for me to remember important stories that I would then come to tell in this book. And I got the first chapter, which is no longer the first chapter. Ironically, it's somewhere in the middle. But I got what I thought was the first chapter, and I wrote that down, and I went back to sleep. And then as I continued my study and I moved into my life, and your life moves at a pace that is really unique to you. So the point of being in comparison with anyone else, maybe somebody else would have been able to write this book after they heard it, but I wasn't able to. There were relationships, there were important seasons that I needed to pass through to write the kind of book that I would feel proud to deliver to the world, that I really do believe was channeled through me, through my own life experiences. So time went on, and I attempted to write this book more than a few times over the years, and simply handed it over back to the muse, because I had felt like I didn't consciously decide to be a writer. I felt called to write the story. Mm-hmm. And then as I was writing the story, on the occasions where I didn't have the literary skills, the writing skills to force a book out of me, I really had to surrender it and let it go. And so I toted this thing around from computer to computer for years. And then one day, 8 years ago, well, actually, it would be 8 years forward, 2 years back from now, I got that same nudge, that same feeling, that same voice came back, and it said, get out of bed, go downstairs and open your computer. And I sat down and scurried to find this book on a hard drive that was so old, plugged it in, and got another 6 chapters. And so I really felt connected at that point that if I were going to get 6 chapters, it would be my time to put my own commitment and effort to the process of completing the project. So 2 years ago is when I would say it officially started for the home stretch of producing the book.
That's amazing. So after you finished the book, what happened next? How did you hire your editor? What was the process after you completed?
So it's so funny, right? Things have a way of being timed in just miraculous conjunction with one another. So last night on my Facebook newsfeed, I saw a memory. It says saved, the same date last year. Mm-hmm. So the same date last year as yesterday, I finished what I thought was the end of my book.
That's so crazy.
I finished writing it. There's this whole video of me basically just praising and crying and being so relieved that the last part of this book wrote itself. It was unbelievable. And then I had 1,700 views of people watching me finish this book, which I really believed was finished, until the book spoke to me again. And I thought, wow, I have this great book. I now need to get some people to read it, and I'll get a little bit of feedback. And then from their feedback, I'll just produce this book and publish it. Well, that really is not the process that actually occurs. So what happened from there was I had a finished book. I went to a live event, and I felt like I was sitting next to someone, and they were like, the book had said to me, it wants an editor. And I thought, I don't know any editors. I certainly felt so attached to what I was writing because it was my life and my story that I didn't know who I would, bring into the process with me, because it had been pretty intimate with just me and the muse and God in terms of writing. And so I was sitting next to someone who was also an amazing copywriter, and I just happened to say, I feel like I need to ask you if you do book editing. And she said, I don't, but I only refer people to one person who does. And I thought, how interesting that she only has one person for me to choose from. So from that conversation, I met you.
Which I'm feel blessed that we met. That's amazing. How divine was all of that? That's crazy.
It is. And
God does his work, her work, depending on what pronoun you want to use. It just amazes me. Your whole story, you just see how much the divine was involved with the whole process for you, which is incredible.
Yeah, well, I would say that's my life. So for me, and for other people, I'm sure the process is unique to them, whatever calls them to wake up and know that they're ready to produce or share a part of your soul, like whether it's a creative piece that doesn't exist in this realm already, or you're actually going to share a part of you that you've already lived. I think that it's always a divine process in that way.
It is. It's amazing. And what was the editorial process like for you then?
Well, I thought I was sending my amazing first draft off to Sarah, and it was, I'll tell you, it was kind of funny. So I sent off this thing that I was convinced was just, God's perfect gift and God's perfect plan. And what I got back was a very interesting developmental document that, even as a spiritual life coach who is seasoned and could coach myself through most things, said like, whoa, what's happening? What is happening? I don't know if I can answer these questions. And so the developmental process, so I was first met with this big shock, really, that what I didn't hear was, hey, this is ready to go.
I'd be ripping you off if I did that, Danielle. I'd be like, it's perfect. You hired me just to be like, that's great.
And I really didn't know that it wouldn't come back saying, hey, this is ready to go. Although the questions that I did receive, the feedback I received was instrumental in really changing this process for me. It is what shaped me into becoming truly an author and a writer that is proud to say that I have a piece of work in the world that could stand next to what I believe is any published book through a industry publisher. And I know that this work is the best work it is because I was willing to integrate your feedback, because I was willing to sit with the difficult questions. There's a lot of inner dialogue that happens when you get back a developmental edit and the suggestions, because it's someone literally questioning what you have just spent all your time kind of claiming authority over. And so now your authority of your own work is in question, but that's exactly what you want, right?
Yes, it's better me than someone else, right? The readers down the line. But you handled it so well. You actually implemented them, which is awesome. And you did the heavy lifting, which is why it's the work it was. Because I read it and it was in one state, which was the beginning stages is very rough. And then when I got it, it was almost a completely different book. It was so much better. You had grown so much as a writer. I was just blown away by how much you took it seriously and you spent the time. It didn't happen overnight. It took a couple months, but it paid off because it's a beautiful book now with only 5-star reviews, right?
Yeah, it is. And I think I want to say, take the time. Take the time. You're producing something that's a beautiful piece of work, a beautiful demonstration of who you are in the world, regardless of what you think you need to do. Everything has a divine timeline and a divine order. Take the time. Because I did need to step into, this is important to me. That was a very critical mindset shift I needed to make. I had to get a babysitter to watch my son so I could do writing. I already owned 2 businesses. I was already doing plenty. I was a stay-at-home mom, a work-at-home mom. I was, a wife, and I'm doing all these things. And it was well, the book's not going to write itself. And so the more time that you give to the process, which was really sitting and engaging in what you had given back to me, the feedback wasn't negative, it was inquisitive. Mm-hmm. And it actually I felt violated. I was I don't want to tell that. That's not what I want to share. And I could see, fortunately, as a life coach, and, I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. So I let myself get to the place where I was really, really stretched. And I just kept asking the question, if I understood what she was asking me to give, why wouldn't I give it? What would it feel like to give the answer, to give the authenticity that you were asking for?
Sorry about that. As we talk about authenticity.
Yeah, so when I did it, I had to truly let go of whatever I believed I was producing and really move back into that creative zone of genius that says, I can also allow this to be something that I don't know what it's going to be. Because I think we came to a crossroad and you said to me, I was writing a self-help book. And
You
you said,
were.
I don't think you're writing a self-help book. I think you're writing a memoir. And I was like, a memoir? Who's writing a memoir?
There was that moment. I remember that.
Yeah, which was, again, a big shift for me. I wasn't planning. I mean, I teach spiritual law and principle. Writing a self-help book was something I was very comfortable producing. But the idea of writing a memoir stretched me into places where I wasn't prepared to go. But I did go. And I let myself be there. And I let myself fight through the good fights, the ones where you just want to ask. And I asked you the questions that needed clarification.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard you offer an option to me once. And you're like, you can take the feedback or you don't have to. And I thought, no.
I appreciate that you took it, though. It made a better book, I think, that you did take it.
She's saying that to me because she ultimately has no control over whether or not I do. But I don't feel like I have a choice. I hired you to be a trusted partner in the process of my intention, which was to deliver a piece of work that could stand next to Eat, Love, Pray. And I wanted to produce, as a first-time writer, something amazing. So there was no way that even if I liked what you said or I didn't, that I wasn't going to let myself struggle through whatever it took to get there. And it is I know life is not a struggle. It doesn't have to be hard. Well, it's not hard, but the struggle was worth it because it was a good exchange and release. It was like, if I just let go of the idea that it's a self-help book, what would it feel like to be in this process of memoir? If I let go of the idea that the story told in the order that I told it was the right way, and I really worked to do what you said, which, it nearly killed me. Figuratively, of course. I had to cut things apart, and that's not how they came in. So at first it was very difficult to say like this, I can disconnect these ideas. Because when they were on paper, they kind of felt whole. But the truth is they were not.
It was a totally different book because if I recall, it was not the chronology of the book was even completely different.
Yes, it wasn't in chronological order prior to that. And I didn't know it needed to be until I allowed it to be. And then when I allowed it to be, I can't tell you how many anchors of ideas and memories and thoughts came in that was like, these things are going to anchor this story in a way that somebody else is going to really live it with me. People have said to me, we think this book should be a thriller. So it says to me that they understand. They took the ride. They're actually engaged in the story. They've taken the ride with me. They come to their own conclusions, of course, because that's the beauty of reading something. It's not smack in the face that you have to take what the writer tells you, but what you take away. But they're taking away the gifts and intentions that I had prayed and hoped for.
That's amazing. So what kind of feedback have you gotten from the book, from your readers? Has it affected people in any way? What kind of reviews have you seen, or people approaching you with?
I think the biggest the most common feedback is that they give themselves permission to see God differently after reading this book. And that was the reason I wrote it. So for me, whatever comes after, that's your business and that's up to you. But the fact that you're able to see, that God is not a contained idea, that it is so expansive, that it is really, truly yours to express and experience and explore, that there's a freedom in God, that I've given people permission to go back to exploring their relationship with God rather than being at the effect of it, which is where I was, in the beginning of the story. Often, and especially now in terms of consciousness, we are operating from a place where we are at the effect of what we were taught, what we believe, what we knew to be true, but no longer works for us necessarily. So we're living in a disjointed space. We feel free as women to work, to explore, to create businesses, to do powerful things in the world, to break the rules that we have been given in community, at work, at home. And then we are still abiding by these religious rules that are determining how we feel about ourselves. And so to transform the one relationship that is truly the relationship affecting all relationships, for me, was the biggest takeaway. So I know that people writing anything about that kind of transformation for themselves has really been just heartwarming and mind-blowing.
That's awesome. And so now that the whole process is done, like, how has it, like, publishing a book, like, changed your life? Your role as a writer, like, your business, has it transformed your business in any way? Like, what kind of transformation has occurred?
Well, I think for one, it got me really clear. I mean, I have so much clarity around what I really want to be doing in the world. And I've always been doing something similar to what I do now, but I'm ready to do this on a global scale. I'm ready to offer an exclusive and luxury type service to people who want to experience and express God independently. They want to break the chains, and I can do that now because there really are like no secrets. Like, I have told so much in this book that I feel like if someone reads my book, they can either decide that they understand that I can feel, see, and know what transparency truly is as a demonstration of it, so that they can do that for themselves in our like working relationship, or they don't want to work with me. And that was something that was really kind of difficult to put out to people without just sounding kind of harsh and just saying, look, if it's, if you're just not going to get to the truth, you probably don't want to sit with me. Like, I'm not very good at the in-between things. We either are going to move into the direction where you recognize how brilliant and amazing and how much your life is a reflection of your true spirit, or how much you're still living from other people's ideas about who you are. So this book helped tremendously around clarity. It's only just begun. I mean, I only released this book in November, and it was like, I didn't even release it, and I had some PR opportunities, invitations to be on radio lined up.
Amazing.
That were like really the book calling it to it. Currently have this book being read by other influencers who have the opportunity and option to help bring it out further in the world. And it's just a journey. I can't wait to see where it goes. And it'll do it like it has done everything else on its own timing.
It's amazing. Like, it's a bestseller now on Amazon. It's been just getting so much traction. Like, I saw your radio interview. It's just, for how early it is, it's doing so well.
It's exciting. I think when you get to the place where you are ready to release it, which is really a great feeling and a scary moment, that you have to let go. My choice was a conscious choice to let go of the direction and to say, I am bringing this into the world. It is my job to do that, but it's not my job to firmly decide who is going to read it. I keep my options open. I answer the call to promote it, to bring it to people's awarenesses, to share about it. But at the end of the day, you never can force someone to read your book. So it has a life of its own. And it's really crazy because maybe if you've written a book before, you know this, but if you haven't written a book and published it before, it's a new feeling.
It's true. It's so exciting. I'm going to link to your book in the notes. Everyone should read it. I'm not just saying because I edited it. It's like one of the most powerful, like, spiritual books I've read. Like, you're up there with Anne Lamott, in my opinion. Like, you're so incredible writer. And let's say people read this book or they've heard this interview and want to work with you. Where can they find you? What kind of work do you do?
They can find me on Facebook at Danielle Randall. You can find me at authorizedlove.com. And the kind of work I do is transforming people's relationship with themselves and as they relate to the world and others. And there is no place we cannot go, and there is no thing we cannot transform. I am 100% certain of that. And it'll be great. And otherwise, I want to say to everyone, let Sarah do her job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. No, let me do my job. That's awesome.
She does an amazing job helping you and supporting you in moving through the process. It may be difficult. Ask for help and let her do her job.
Thank you so much. Well, thanks so much for this, taking time to chat with me today. Everyone, purchase this book now. It's like such a good deal. It will change your life. I don't say that lightly. I do say that a lot, but in this case, I really mean it will change your life. Like, she put blood, sweat, and tears in this book, and like, it paid off. Like, you can tell she worked hard on it. It's her legacy. I think it will stand the test of time. It's like kind of this timeless, universal thing. And I think any religion you currently are, it will resonate with you. I think it's a pretty universal book and it's great. So everyone check that out. And thank you again, Danielle, for your time.
Thank you.